Hi everyone, I'm Dr. T, and today we have Suzanne with us, and she has kindly allowed us to use her as our guinea pig. So we're going to do this video today. We're going to talk about gut health. And what I'm going to do is show you how gut health affects your low back and how it can show up in the body and how different things like your diet and emotions may affect it. Now, we're also going to talk about, so that's very much, chiropractic and the lumbar spine, but we're going to also talk about some other reflexes, and we're going to talk about it also from an energy perspective, so you can kind of see how it's all tied together. To kind of give you a glimpse of how complex we really are, number one, but number two, how all these different things can affect your health, and anything that you choose to do proactively to improve your health is going to do just that. It's going to improve your health. Okay? So, first, we'd like you to stand up. And we're just going to start with some very basic information. So, go ahead and turn around here, or maybe turn to the side. And because I want them to see, I want you to see that the low back here, that's what we're calling the lumbar spine. And so if I was to put my hand here, so it's going to be right on top of the iliac crest, and then there's several vertebrae. Here's the base of her rib cage. So between here and here, that's what your lumbar spine is. So she's standing, and now we've created a platform where her feet, her knees, her hips are supporting your spine. So if there's a problem with any of those, it could be affecting you as well. Okay? So we're going to skip over that part, okay? Just in case there is, because that's next week's video.
Okay.
All right. So we want you to go ahead and lie face up on the table. So I also wanted to show you the GI map test, and we've been talking quite a lot about this lately. And this is the test that we use to kind of determine what the health status is of the gut. So it tells us if you have H. pylori, if there's a parasite, if there's worms, if how you react to certain antibiotics, what kind of the gut flora is doing, and which ones are out of balance, if they're too high or too low. And then we can help correct that process 99% of the time through using herbs and supplementation. If you have particular parasites, for instance, some of those might be easier treated with an antibiotic, and then we would just send you onto your MD to get that taken care of. But this test we use to help us determine what's happening with the gut, because then that could influence the lumbar spine. Now, do you know why it influences the lumbar spine?
No.
You didn't know I was going to quiz you either. So the nerves that come out of the spine go to the organs. Okay, so the organs get their kind of signals from the spine, and they have information that they want to send back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no communication system is only one way. Everything's always, even us, right? When we're communicating, most of the time we say something and we want information back, and then we react to whatever the information is that we have coming back. The nervous system is the exact same way. So if we were to look at just the reflexes on the body of the gut, now what makes up the gut? Because we say that a lot, and people will come in and they'll say, oh, my stomach hurts, and I'll say, point to where it hurts, and they'll point here, or they'll point here. I'm sorry if I'm poking you.
Here.
So, so you have to be clear kind of about what hurts. So, and the gut really, again, so the lumbar spine is that region between the rib cage, right, and the pelvis. So the same thing, the gut is really the front, it takes up the whole front area of that. And if you were to think about it in just basic terms, you're going to have your stomach, you're going to have your small intestine, right? You can make a fist, and then you're going to have your large intestine, which kind of wraps all the way around it. And then over on the right side here, you have your liver, then you have your gallbladder, and you have the cystic duct, which is kind of in between. And on the left side, you have your spleen and your pancreas. So they're not really like up on the surface, they're inside. But you have all this area that's above the nerves, right? I mean, above the organs. you have all this skin area, and it gets its signals from the nerves in the nervous system as well. So you can determine to some extent to see what's happening there. And the organs can create pain and a pain sensation that will reflex into the skin. So sometimes you can figure out what organ is dysfunctioning by that, as well as what nerve root is dysfunctioning by that. So there's a way that we can determine what's happening. And we use muscle testing for that. Now, we've gone over basic muscle testing, and that's a completely different video. So we're just going to kind of dive right in. Okay, so we're going to use it generally. We're going to use some general principles of it right now. So if you hold your arm like this, and I'm going to resist here. So if I want to know how the stomach is doing, we're going to talk to the area that's innervated by those same nerves. And so we just touch here, stomach, oh, no problem, right? Small intestine, here, good, no problem. Large intestine, problem. So you see you go weak there. Now, yes, I'm pumping it several times just so you can see that that's happening. I don't have to do that to know whether it's weak or not. And weak is just, it's just the phrase that we use. It doesn't have anything to do with strength. It has to do with whether the signal is coming out, right? So we know that's not correct. Then we go to that part of your colon. So your colon really is not happy. So, and I should have asked her this probably before, but that's okay. You never know what's going to happen, and you never know what's going to happen when somebody comes in either. This is the liver. The liver is huge. Gallbladder, good. We want to know pancreas and spleen, okay? So we know we have some digestive upset. Now, according to kinesiology, which is a system that I use, one of the great things that kinesiology did from chiropractic standpoint was it absolutely clarified the relationship between the organ and the muscle, and that they were talking to each other. So you can use certain muscles, which would be the motor portion of the nervous system, to see if the function is altered in any way into the nervous system, and then potentially into the organ, right? So it can point towards the organ needing some kind of help and support. Hence, one more reason why we do the GI map, right? So if we want to know how the large intestine's doing, we're going to go to the lower body. Now we go to the lower body, all the muscles from here on down are going to be talked to from the lumbar spine, right? From the lumbar spine and from the sacrum. So if you keep your legs straight and you turn your toes in, I'm going to push across this way. Ready, resist, and see that is a weak response. Okay, so we want a normal response would be the joint locking. So if we bring this up and we turn the toes in, and that is a weak response. So that muscle corresponds with the large intestine, which is the same weakness you had when we touched the reflexes a moment ago. Okay, so both of those will change if we stabilize the lumbar spine. So we can just test that too. So you can take your hand, we're going to have you take your hand, and we're going to have you place it underneath your spine. It doesn't matter if it's palm up, because, you know, okay, unless you can put it, can you put it palm up? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know that might not be super comfortable. So now it's touching your lumbar spine. Mm-hmm. So it's sending a signal into your nervous system. So your nervous system is going to tell us if the spine is unstable, it's going to change how the body reacts. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if we go back and we test and we know that her lumbar spine is involved, now that muscle doesn't budge an inch, right? Doesn't budge. And I'm pushing much harder just so you can have a sense that it doesn't budge and you're not using a whole lot of pressure. It actually takes less energy, doesn't it, mm-hmm, to actually do that than it does the other way. So we know we have to change the lumbar spine in order to help change the signal. Now we can also go back, yep, jump the gun, it's okay. We can go back and we can see, if we just go here, your body doesn't say there's a problem with the lumbar spine generally. But if we go here, see it does change the function. Oh, but see it doesn't here. So we still have, so now we have a complicated case. So you necessarily move it up a little bit, okay? and now we go, so see that part, so you're up a little bit higher in the spine, and that part is showing up to change this part of the colon. Does that make sense? And if we go here now, see, now you go into weakness, so we know if we're not touching anything else, when you're touching there, I'm actually asking, hey, is there a problem with the spine? Your body's like, oh yeah, it's not working, okay? So people have so many problems with their gut, right? People, and you may feel free to chime in if you want to talk about any gut problems. So, but people will have to get up in the morning and run to the bathroom, right? Sometimes people will eat something and have to get up and run and use the restroom right away. Not that it's that, they've just eaten it, it's just kind of forced a reflex. It's caused a reaction in the body. It's not that the stomach is emptying that fast. If it is, then you definitely have you have an issue. So all those things are not necessarily normal. And if this all gets inflamed, it can cause low back pain. So people think their low back pain is only from their low back, and it's not true at all. If you continue to eat something that you're having a reaction to, normally what we would say is a food sensitivity, then that could be creating a high level of inflammation and a high level of low back pain that most likely at first you just got used to, because you just keep eating that substance and eating that substance. And this is one of the things that we found with gluten and dairy in particular, that they're causing that inflammation and they're creating that problem. Sugar is another big one for a variety of reasons. And the gut and digestion in particular is one of the top causes of low back pain. So go ahead, turn face down. Okay. So now we're going to take a look at her lumbar spine. We're actually going to adjust it so you can see what that is and familiarize yourself with it in case if you're not familiar. And I want to, we're going to try one other thing first. So I'm going to go up to her shoulders, and I want to know, Suzanne, is this tender? And is this tender?
It is.
Are they the same, or is one worse than the other?
They're about the same.
Okay. So they're about the same. Oftentimes they're not. One is worse than the other. If we go down to the lumbar spine, I'm just going to push on the vertebra because I want to know how they're moving. Okay. Now they don't move a lot, so this may be difficult. But you feel how that doesn't move at all. Can you feel that? So that moves. Okay, but that doesn't move. That doesn't move. That doesn't move. And that moves. So we have a segment here that's kind of stuck. So we're going to undo that. Does that hurt?
It's a little tender.
Yeah. Now, is it tender in general outside of me pushing on it? No. Okay. Because sometimes that lack of motion in the spine can cause tenderness in that particular area of the spine for people. And then I'm going to push on these joints here, and I want to see how they move. And that moves pretty good, right? And so no pain there, right?
No.
That one moves not quite as well. So in order to determine, now I could fix that, I could go ahead and fix that piece of the spine, and we could, but I'm going to go on and just gather a little bit more information first before I move on to fix that, okay? So I want to check some more function of the muscles in the back of your legs that correspond to the different nerve roots. So go ahead, bend at the knee here. And so we're going to test your hamstring. I'm going to push this way. You resist. Ready? Resist. Okay. So nothing happened in there. That's from your L5. So if we stabilize your L5, see, now it works just fine. Put that down. Let's see how this side is. Oh, and neither one of those are working. So put that down. So the first thing I want to know is, do we need to help her low back out a lot? Bend at the knee. And see, that changes it. What I did was I altered the position of the pelvis just for a second, and it changed that function. Now, we didn't fix anything, but we're about to, because I'm going to take these little magic handy dandy blocks, And I'm gonna put them in different positions underneath your pelvis. Okay, and they're gonna start to put your hip down, bring this one up. They're gonna start to heal the lumbar spine just using gravity and your breathing. Okay, so they're taking some pressure off there, and just by doing that, if she bends at the knee, look, strong as a rock. Strong as a rock. Now we want to go back up here. Any change?
It's not as tender.
How about here?
Same, it's not as tender.
Okay, so now we have shoulder pain that is probably chronic. Is it chronic?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she complains of chronic shoulder pain, and it's really coming from her lumbar spine. So there's a little deeper explanation for that, but because we just took the stress off the lumbar spine, it's taken the stress off the body all the way up through the entire spine and through the shoulders. So if she really wanted to get rid of her shoulder pain, she has to fix her low back, or I have to fix her low back. So now we can go on to this, and we are going to go ahead and adjust this. You can see, doesn't move, doesn't move, moves. Ugh. So we're going to use the percussor to just unblock that. This typically feels really good. Does it? How's it feel?
Yes, it's very
Yeah.
nice.
There it goes, and you can feel it kind of letting go. Oh, there we go. Did you feel that? Now, we're going to adjust it, but I want to see if we... Now, feel how that moves? So the vertebrae that weren't moving are now moving. So I'm going to just adjust that a little bit, but the percussor made my job much, much easier. Good. And now we got that kind of corrected, and that should be pretty good now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
No pain there.
No.
So we're still going to leave her here, but when we... So those nerves, well actually, let's turn you face up. Go ahead and turn face up, because I want to bring it back into the digestive tract. So from doing that adjustment, I want to see if now the muscles, we corrected the kind of the position and the signaling of the lumbar spine. Let's see, did it change this? Ready, resist? Look, and it did. So now the muscle associated with the large intestine is now firing. And let's see if it changed the reflex. Yes, yes, yes. And it changed the reflex there. Now, if we were to look at that energetically, so we adjusted really kind of L2, L1, 2, 3, so because we did several there, and we unwound kind of the upper lumbars like that, and then the lower thoracics, because it was kind of like T12, L1, L2, L3. We shorten that, so that's like the first lumbar vertebra, the second lumbar vertebra. So we shorten it to an L, and the T is thoracic, if you weren't familiar with that. So we corrected that, and if we were to look at it from an energetic perspective, or in terms of an energy center, or what some people refer to as a chakra, we would be talking about the solar plexus chakra. So that's going to be right here in the solar plexus, which is going to affect this. And then there's a lower chakra too. But mostly this is where the large intestine is going to be influenced from. So there's you have three of them. But this one comes from that nerve. There's a nerve plexus there called the celiac plexus, which I think is kind of interesting because you have celiac disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, which is really an inflammation of that nerve plexus, and then it creates inflammation in that whole bundle of nerves, and then the corresponding organs. Okay, in that case, celiac would specifically be the small intestine and damage to the small intestine, which you could speed up its healing if you helped heal those nerve roots. Does that make sense?
It does.
So you have that the energy plexus, which is going to be the solar plexus, that's going to be in that same area. If you've been chronically sick for a long time, your energy field is going to be congested out this way as well, because this is your physical body, but then you have an area around you that kind of emits light, right? And that's what you would consider your aura. That's going to emit light. But it can also become clogged. Or just like a cloudy or foggy day, right? When you can see clear outside, the area around you and in front of you is very clear. And you're just seeing into the atmosphere, right? And then if it was foggy and dense, you wouldn't be able to see anything. So it's the same way with how the energy field is in our body. We just don't really often think about it. Now, some people do, they think about that and not necessarily their physical body, but I want people to see that both of those things are important and that one is going to affect the other. Stay tuned for another video where we're going to show you how the emotions would influence the gut and influence the lumbar spine and the alignment of the spine. And we'll also be showing you how food or external substances can influence the lumbar spine and the gut as well.